Hey guys, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us once again. This is our second day of live sessions. Social Talks is a free virtual conference powered by Social Insider, and it's mostly dedicated to social media professionals. Our guest for this live session is a special one. Andrei Serbanoiu is one of our data geeks, and he's also a co-founder at Social Insider. Here, he wears different hats from sales to product to development, and his experience in building analytics products shapes the way Social Insider extracts actionable insights from huge amounts of data. And we have him here today to tell us more about how data works. Hi, Andrei. Let me... Oh, I can see you. Wait a second. Hi. Can you hear me? Hopefully.
Yeah.
Great. So, hi, Andrei. I hope you're well.
Yeah.
The stage is yours now. So
Good. Let me find a screen share. I guess I should hit play. Now, does it work? Does it look okay? Yeah, I guess it looks okay. So yeah, Diana made a nice introduction. I'm Andrei. I'm a co-founder at Social Insider. I build stuff. So for most of my career, I worked with data and analytics solutions, and now we're building Social Insider. Now, I didn't want this to be a pitch about Social Insider, so the presentation is about measuring what matters on social. Now, it's going to be short. It's going to be, we're going to cover about 6 topics. And the first one is the root of all evil, what gets measured. So all social media managers need to do some sort of reporting, either for their managers or for their clients. And in those reports, they need to include certain KPIs. Now, the most common KPIs that people include are general, let's say. So obviously the number of posts that they do on social, the engagement they get, the reach, impressions as well. This is when we're talking about the organic part. Also, social media managers that handle paid report on paid metrics, so, such as click-through rate and number of clicks received. Yeah, so this would be like the core of what gets reported. On top of those, every social media manager comes with a layer of his own flavor of metrics. So a more common one would be engagement rates. So getting a measure of how engaged the community is. From discussing with our clients, they seem to need such a metric, but getting such a metric to work well with reporting and have a consistency across platforms can sometimes be troublesome. Another metric that's a favorite for social media managers to report or for clients to see is the follower growth, because they always want to see that their accounts are growing. So yeah, when a social media manager does the report, he has to keep in mind that the report must contain things that the client needs, but also things that the social media manager needs to show to prove work. So he has to show that he shared 10 posts on Facebook and got 15 engagement and 3 post clicks further on, but that might not be very interesting to the brand or the client, and the client might want to see more into how many website visits did social bring. So as a social media manager, you have to bridge the gap between what you think is important for you as a social media manager and what's important for the client. Now, as if things weren't complicated enough, analyzing and creating reports has some pitfalls. I call this data pitfalls. And there's a couple of problems with reporting that are partially based on the platforms not being really open with the data that they provide. And sometimes because the platform data is unreliable, the reports are not really reliable and you can't really look into them. And while in general metrics are okay, there are some metrics that are not that great in terms of measuring. So one of the bad metrics, in my opinion, would be reach, because everything reach related is estimated within Facebook and Instagram and whatever social platform, because they can't keep count of unique people, and people seem to want to report on reach. A lot of our clients want ask us to report on the total reach for a Facebook page, for example. And reach means unique people that saw your content. Now, you can't just add up reach because you then don't have unique people, so adding the reach up doesn't create a meaningful metric. So there's a pressure on social media managers to report on the reach as a total, but they have to explain to clients that that's not a good metric. Instead of reporting on reach, that means unique people, you can lean on impressions, because although you might have duplicate views, at least you paint a clear picture of how many times your content got in front of potential customers or followers or whatever. Now, as I said, reach is bad because it's estimated. So Facebook doesn't know the number of unique people that saw your post, because it's hard to keep track of everything across a large number of impressions. Now, another type of metric that's estimated within Facebook and people tend to report on is demographic data. So when you look at demographic data in your Instagram profile, for example, on the Instagram app, you're going to see gender split, like it's 60% female and 40% male. But that data doesn't take into account all your followers. It just takes into account the followers that have set a gender within the Facebook universe. They might be on the Facebook page Facebook profile that they link somehow to the Instagram profile, but basically they don't have gender information or city information for everyone. And they just omit part of the data that they don't have demographics for, and just show you the pie chart with the data that they have. In a weird way, when Facebook reports data, they can do it in multiple ways. You have Facebook Analytics that's going away now. You have Facebook Insights. You have Creator Studio. You have the native apps for Instagram or for Facebook now. And you also have third-party apps like we are. And the funny thing is that the data you get through multiple platforms is not necessarily the same. For example, when talking about demographics, third-party tools get the whole follower demographic distribution with a category that's other. So they don't know the gender, so there might be 40% of the fans would be in an other category. So you won't be able to reliably tell what your audience is. So don't overemphasize demographics in reporting, because it's not really that accurate. I mean, you can get a sense of what your gender preference is for your brand, but I guess you already knew that when you started communicating, because people need to know who they're talking to before they start posting. But generally, don't lean too much on the demographics part of the social media platforms. Now, there's an important part with how are metrics calculated. Can you use the same formula across platforms? Can you compare data on different platforms for the same metric and get a reliable insight? Well, it depends. The problem is it depends. Within Facebook, engagement, for example, is calculated as likes, comments, reactions, shares, clicks, as well as engagement on shares. So if people shared the post and that post got engagement, then it gets added up to the post engagement. Now, this is a way of that a way Facebook uses to boost the engagement numbers that you see in insights and have like a better experience with the Facebook product. You're going to be like, hey, I got a lot of engagement, but then you manage to go through the data and you look like, well, where are these coming from? So there's this as well. I was talking about a popular metric, that's engagement rate. We have a similar metric and every other product has it. It's called average engagement rate per post. And basically it takes the sum of all the engagements you got, divided by the number of posts, and then divided by something. Now, some platforms use followers, and we use followers as well. I'm going to get to why in a second. And you get a number. Now, other social media managers prefer to calculate engagement rate using impressions, because they feel like, okay, I have these many followers, but Facebook is only going to show my content to a small number of the followers, maybe 10% of the followers. So then it's going to be more reliable if I divide it by the impressions. There's another bunch of people that divides it by reach. And now we get into the same discussion that the reach is not unique, and that number that you get might not be something significant. I prefer using followers in the engagement rate formula, not because I feel it's more accurate when reporting on a Facebook page, but when you want to compare different pages, it keeps a level playing field, because everybody gets adjusted according to the page size. So you can even compare smaller pages with big pages and you get a meaningful insight. Obviously, smaller pages have higher engagement rates because Facebook pushes their content more so that they get hooked on paid. But yeah, you get my point. Now, doing a report once a month, you create with the tool of your preference or your Excel file or whatever. If you create a report with all the Facebook activity and send it up to your manager or client, that's good. You can do that. I mean, most of the people do that, but I feel like not all content is created equal. Now, what I mean by this is that within the brand, you're going to have multiple content tracks for social. So, for example, at Social Insider, when we post on social, we post on different topics, let's say. So a topic would be customer stories, a topic would be some ebooks that we did, a topic would be a podcast, and we're going to send out posts that look in a different way for each track. Okay? Now, if at the end of the month we create a report with everything added up, then we have a report of our performance, but we don't know which type of content worked best. And what I found with in working with other social media managers is that if you separate the content in tracks and look at the statistics for each content track, then you can get more insights into what works well. For example, for customer stories, a single picture works well for us. But for studies or insights that we bring from studies, carousels work best. Yeah, now, when you look at the whole picture, you might not have caught on to this kind of subtle insight, but if you dive deeper into the content and do more of an in-depth analysis, then you can better understand what works well for your brand. Now, talking about brands, social media managers, I mean, some of the social media managers only manage a Facebook page, but most people in this area manage multiple profiles. So you're going to manage potentially a Facebook page, an Instagram, and a Twitter profile. Now, similarly to how you dive deeper into the content tracks and analyze them in depth to see what works for each, we call them campaigns. So for each campaign, now you can take a step back and look at your brand as a whole. Because if you are focusing on a single channel, you'd want to do the best to achieve your goal on that channel. Now, when more channels come into play, what you're going to have to do is figure out which channel works best for the message you're trying to send out and which content works best on which channel. Now, if you do your reports one by one and just analyze data for generating the reports at the end of the month, that's not a problem. But if you're trying to do better and to create a better strategy for the brands that you work with, it would be best to, at the end of the month, to look at all the channels together, maybe grab the data in an Excel, maybe use a tool, and then look, okay, so we posted this many times on this platform, this many times on this platform, and 3 times on Twitter. But you see that, oh, Twitter worked really well for your brand. Now, are you going to spend the same time on Facebook doing stuff that's not rewarding your brand? Or are you going to move your communication to a place that your communication works? So, I mean, some people might have a hunch. So they might say, I feel like Twitter is better for this brand. But it's always best to analyze and to look at the whole picture and understand if you're on the right channel for your audience. I mean, yeah, it totally makes sense. Now, highly visual brands work well on Instagram. Highly conversational brands work well on Twitter. Some content is harder to create than others. Okay, so doing a YouTube video is kind of hard because it takes a lot of time. Tweeting a tweet is kind of low effort. But regardless, you should analyze which platform works best for you. And if you find that it's relevant to stay on Facebook and spend time and energy in putting out content on Facebook where nobody cares about what you put out, then maybe it's a better idea to focus on the channels that work for your brand. Obviously, you can report, you can create a nice report and send it over to management and say, hey guys, I don't think Facebook, I know you want Facebook, but I don't think it's working. Let's focus on Instagram. And then you're going to have some solid evidence that it works. So yeah, analyzing the whole brand is a really nice thing. Now, this is my favorite part. So up until now, I've been talking about how you can look into your brand and how you can analyze things and how you can create reports, stuff like that. But now, you're not alone when doing social. So you're not the only one putting content out there, because that would be ideal for everyone. You're alone and everybody's looking at you. So you're going to be in competition with several other brands. You're going to have competitors spending more on social or doing more on a certain platform. But you have to keep tabs on what they do. So this is both for you as a social media manager managing the brand and for the reports that you need to send out. So I'm going to start with that first. So basically, when working with the brand, it's always good to look at what the competitors are doing on different platforms. Are they posting more than you? Are they getting more engagement? Are they more responsive in the comments? Do they have more interesting content? Maybe they use videos. You only use photos. Maybe videos work better for the audience that you both target. So it's really important to look at what content goes out from your competitors. This helps you in multiple ways. It helps you adjust what you do in a sense of they're doing more carousels. Maybe we should try that. Or you see that they have really punchy visuals, and then you say, okay, our visuals look a bit dated. Maybe we can upgrade our visuals. Okay, we're going to post less because it takes more time, but it's going to be higher quality, and people are going to appreciate this, for example. Now, it also works on a different level. because when you're doing end of month reporting or stuff like that, and sending things over to management, you can use competitors' data to leverage a point that you want to make. For example, if you're on top of the competitors or doing better than the direct competitors that you want, it's going to be a great proof of work. So you're going to say, hey, we're doing great, I did a good job, and you're going to get appraisal. Now, if you're not on top, maybe you can understand why. And instead of sending a report where you say, I'm bottom, you're going to say, look, guys, we're bottom, but we've grown a lot, and I've learned this and this and this. And for the next month, I'd like to try a new strategy. Okay, so it helps you both get appraisal and ask for either more resources or a change of plan. Now, along with competitors, ideally what you could include is industry averages or industry benchmarks. So let's say you're in the fashion niche. You're going to want to compare with what the fashion niche does in your country or your geographical area as in terms of social performance, just to see if you're with the pack. It's nothing wrong if you're above the pack, that's ideal, but if you're below the pack, maybe you need to dive deeper into what others do. So this would be like an indicator of healthiness. Industry averages are like an indicator of healthiness. You need to be on top of the industry averages. Now, obviously, as I said, you need to look into their content strategy. And this goes beyond what they post. You can look at what hashtags they use. Do they use branded hashtags? How many hashtags do they use per post? For example, for Instagram. For Twitter, you can look at, do they create conversations around the brand? Do they post questions? Or do they post links only? Once you get the ball rolling and start analyzing what their content strategy is, you're going to see that you're going to come up with great ideas just from looking at their content. So if you look at all their content, you're going to be like, these guys are doing this and this. Why aren't we doing this and this? It seems that it's working for them. You can then experiment with that. Good. Now, this would be the competitors part. Yeah. Now, as I said, we're now going to dive into the realm of strategy. Now, when you look at the competitors, when you analyze your data, it's really important to tie it into your social media strategy. So just having the data in an Excel file or in a Google Sheet or in a nice, pretty printed PDF that you send over to management, it's not going to make your social better. So just looking at the insights, just to send them over to another person, is not going to help you out. So having the data is necessary, but not enough. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take the data, you're going to have to look at it, look at your current strategy, and then adapt your strategy frequently to create sort of a loop. So you're going to have like a feedback loop. You're going to post something, let's say for a week, then at the end of the week or at the beginning of the next week, you analyze what happened. You analyze what happened with competitors, you analyze what happened with the industry you're in, and then you say, okay, we need to push more on Instagram, and then you iterate on that. And doing these sort of loops are going to get your strategy better and better and better over time. So it's not really about reporting only, although most of the people spend a lot of time on doing the reports, but it's more in the realm of better understanding what works on social and adapting your strategy step by step to get more return on the time spent on creating the social creatives. Now, I know this seems like the hard path that you have to work with a lot, but obviously you're not going to find, there's potential that your posts for the brand are going to go viral, but that potential is quite low and it's not guaranteed. So you might want to make your brand go viral, but you don't have the push power or you don't have that spark of creativity that can make a post go really, really viral. So this would be the honest work approach. So you're going to have to do the honest work and get better at social for the specific brand. So there's no actual way of like tricking the algorithm or doing stuff like that. It's going to have to be work. Now there are some things that you can do. For example, now on Instagram you can post. For a while, Reels got boosted a bit in terms of impressions. On Facebook, videos worked well because Facebook wanted to push itself as a video platform. But these things fade from time to time. But if you do, like, if you analyze your strategy and look at others, you're not going to miss a trend like this. So you're going to look at the data, you're going to see your numbers go flat, and you're going to look at the competitor and you're going to see the numbers go up. And you're going to be like, what are they doing? And you're going to catch on to the changes in how the platforms work. Good. This would be it from me in terms of the presentation I had prepared. Now, if you have any questions or suggestions or whatever.
Yes, a great presentation indeed, but we do have one question from the audience. So when dealing with influencers, how can we measure that?
That's a really good question. Now, this is, I'm going to just stop the share. Yeah, good question. Influencers. Now, this is a matter of own versus gained engagement or gained metrics. Now, when you do an influencer campaign, you're going to have engagement and brand attention coming from multiple accounts. What you can do and what people advise and social media managers use widely is that when doing an influencer campaign, they create either a branded hashtag that they ask influencers to use, and then measuring the content that they do can be done with various tools where you can see what amount of engagement you got from each influencer. Now, including them in the report, it should be done in a separate part because it's not something that you did. It's more of a paid campaign, like you do with ads. Like influencer campaigns are promotions that you do. Okay, so it will be best to include them in a separate section of when doing a report. Good.
Okay, thank you, Andrei. It was really great having you here to share your knowledge with us. So I believe data is super important for any social media professional. And to all of you, thank you so much for joining this live session. Up next, we'll have Andy Crestodina, who's going to talk about how to work with influencers to drive search rankings. So stick with us for a great evening, and it will be worth your time. I promise you that. And enjoy. Bye.
Bye.